Wassail Beautiful People. House Gemini. Now, just for clarification, I'm not meaning it has to be House 3. I call it House Gemini because I want you all to start thinking about the houses as being something other than just where your sun is. Because we have empty houses and we have busy houses. And so, what you're looking at today is the energies that you might have in your natal chart in Gemini. And we're doing this so that we can understand how the energies of certain planets affect four different kind of energy frequencies, characteristic groups around the frequency. Because a lot of the time we get stuck in older concepts that we learned when we were very young, and a lot of stereotypes that don't contain somehow the full picture of what it means to be Gemini. So as I've been developing this deck, I'm creating a list that will adapt of the notions of four parts of the character that is associated with each sign. So I'm looking at the kind of, in your birth chart, there's an energy which I'm at the moment calling ego chaos, which is the negative, shadowy energies that pull you into darkness and into despair. And then we're going to look at an area which is called self-calm. So not the ego, but the self, a kind of higher aspirational characteristics that are hidden in your chart and sometimes that you don't see. And then we're going to look at an area that's called at the moment subconscious wisdom, and it's about an energy frequency of the balance between the darkness and the light, the ego and the self. And it's hidden within us, and we can seek to find that and utilize it. And then the final category, worldly wise, is like the gifts that you can bring to others when you're balanced, when you've gone inside yourself and analysed things. It's about re-emerging and the gifts that you bring to everyone. So I'm going to begin with the bells. I had to come inside today because there was a lot of hammering and drilling outside. Not helpful. So, Gemini, here's your Neptune bells. Interestingly, yesterday I got songs with the bells, and there was a sense from the energy of the bells today of overthinking, of seeking. It's part of one of the characteristics which I often associate with Gemini, which is not listening properly, but thinking so that you're ready for the next thing. It's almost like not paying attention. So it's interesting that you got no song. And I sat there and let my mind open, but my mind started going, there's no song, there's no song, there's no song. And that's that energy that you often have when people engage you in conversation and you're not listening. Gemini. Naughty. So you're ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the throat. It's also interesting because I have a dryish sensation in my throat that I've had all night. And I was going to do your reading yesterday, but there was a party next door, and so I couldn't seem to find anywhere where I couldn't hear the music, and so I couldn't make the video. So we're going to look at the sound of the throat. And there is something, that energy of transformation. There's an energy frequency of needing to transform the voice. There's a vulnerability about the throat chakra. It's not one of our most stable frequencies, and I think in sound healing, usually when there's some kind of illness coming in or stress, it's the throat that goes first, because it's that vulnerability to speak, because our voices are our truth. They're our energy, that's us alone. So I just need to bear with me. I need to turn off the Wi-Fi because I don't want someone to ring during a reading. So G sharp, A flat is the throat chakra. So we'll just sound that and feel that sense of it being the rulership of you while still having vulnerability. It's very outside the body. It's very it's sort of floating up in the air. It's and there's a pulse inside it. I'm being shown kind of like children running around trying to catch butterflies with nets. It's like you're trying to find your voice. It came back in slowly. It feels really dusty. It feels like you've not had your voice for a long time. So let's look at the ego chaos, the energy of your shadows that pull on you, particularly in our sort of post-puberty period. It sort of comes into its fore a lot, and it is there as a child, but it's very much a kind of frequency that we begin with before we wake up from the shadows and see how we can use those shadows to create space for light. So we have erratic. You can be very erratic. You can be flighty. You can be very gossipy. Nervous. That nervousness, I sensed that. Disinterested. We've already mentioned that energy. You can also be hedonistic. You're also fibbers. You do like to exaggerate things. And you can be very two-faced. Now, yeah, they're difficult energies. And what we're going to do is a reading on why those energies exist within us using the Alchemy of Astrology deck that we're creating. So, Gemini. Can we talk about the shadow aspects of Gemini? So, we've got 3 cards. We have your moon in Gemini. And this is about networking. That's part of what creates your ability, or a disability in many ways, to have that sort of being there, being flighty, being hedonistic, rushing in to do things with people, but that nervousness, that gossiping, that energy of networking and feeling that networking is about kind of making connections with people to help your story. But there's that sense, I'm getting that thing of how people only matter in your shadows until they don't, and then you just move on. There's something very rapid, and it's 55. It's that frequency of changing. So it's giving me that energy of there's an awful lot of speed attached to this frequency. Rushing around, not giving anything its full time, that sort of panicking that you're missing the next thing, and so rushing off before learning the lessons of things that came to you originally. When you networked, when you connected with someone, it was for a purpose, and you're almost not staying in long enough. You're flying off. You've got that flighty energy that's rolling across. And we've got universal seed, and this is the planet Earth, and this is the song lines, the grid lines, the energy lines. I'm being shown you as an energy running, and your feet aren't touching the ground. You're in a race with yourself and with your ideas, and that's not allowing you to connect yourself because of you being mutable air into relationships with people. When you're networking, finding that ability to sort of connect with them, it's that disinterested. It's all about you racing forwards to the next object, and there is that sense of trying to impress. And then we have Moon in Taurus. There's something about both of the fact that you have Moon in Gemini, Moon in Taurus. Moon in Taurus is sensual nights, but it's also it's neck, vocal cords. It's an area that's to do with the Mercury frequency in sound healing, the throat, the thyroid. And there's something about it being like a tornado. You're whipping up a tornado of emotions, and you're not bringing any of your emotions down into the ground, and that's making you overthink everything that's going on around you. So do we have another message to do with the shadow side? To understand it. Another moon. Okay, so distill. So this is to contain, to work out what energies that you come into contact with in your shadow frequency that you need to just put a lid on, and you need to explore them and see them as a value in how they help you to grow. So because shadows are the key to the light, to the next stages in life. So this is also to do with house 2, which is the idea of you're trying to gather together possessions, but you can't have possessions if you are not connected to the earth, because possessions are material, earthbound objects, and you need to sort of distill this energy into a focus where you understand what you're receiving from others, what you're learning from others, rather than just not listening to them. And then you have Moon in Scorpio. So this is the third moon, and this is about emotional exchanges. This is that sense of the need to to stop the wind, to stop that whirlwind of emotions, even if it's just when you're with someone, to have a proper emotional exchange that you can then put into your distillation process and work out why that would help you in life, in your pathway. It's the value of emotional exchanges. At the moment, there is something, I am getting this energy of I don't want to say promiscuity, but a sort of a nervousness around pleasures, physical pleasures, sexual pleasures in this as well. Like it's like you can't get a handle on sexual relationships because again, you don't listen. It's all about it's not even about pleasuring you. It's about seeking pleasure, that hedonism, but you're not doing your hedonism with any emotional kind of truth. Your shadows are driving you into that. It's it's like let's party, let's party. It's exhausting and it's exhausting you, but it exhausts others. And that's possibly why when you're networking, you're dashing around and jumping between one person and the next person because there's no emotional truth in it. There's just a kind of you exhaust people. I kind of feel like you know that in some ways and you don't care. So you just move on to the next thing. It's like not just that energy of drawing in material possessions, you're also trying to draw in a huge circle of friends and yet you don't care enough about them. It's not it's not the best thing, but it is your natural shadow. It's something you have to learn to accept within yourself and understand how you can grow from that. So the next part of the reading is about your lighter, your more positive attributes, which I'm calling self calm at the moment. When you allow yourself to calm down the shadows and work with them. So here are the more positive attributes about being Gemini, which is to be inquiring. You're an air sign. You love to gather knowledge and you're intelligent. And there's a sense of word wizardry, this energy where you can conjure words to sort of change other people's ideas. And you're inventive, you're humorous, you're flexible, and you are sociable. But you're socializing in a non listening way. But your truth is, you're really good at socializing and networking. That's part of your positive sides. But we always begin looking into the shadow aspects of ourselves. So, Gemini. Just the first card out is boil. This is emotional heat. This is to scald something. And I suspect because it's related to House 8, Sex, Death and Taxes, that it's a hangover of your shadows that you need to boil away. And that's what it's saying. You've got to really work on bringing about change. It's almost, networking doesn't involve having to have sex with everyone. It doesn't involve having to get off your head with everyone. And so you need to scald that away from your understanding of yourself. You need to give yourself the freedom of your shadows, freedom from your shadows. And then the next card to come out is Mercury, which is the G sharp, the healing. This is the throat. You need to communicate with people differently. And that means listening. That's your gift. That's how you reach these self-calm energies. And it's quicksilver. It's that metal, liquid metal, that mutable energy, that movement, that fluidity. But there's something about this that's much more shiny and appreciated by those around you. There's a real energy in your side which is about getting a handle on your sex, your eroticism. So before we were looking at how almost your sex life damages you because it doesn't contain emotional content. And here we have Eros. And Eros is sexual desires and it's also sexual kinks. But there's something about this because we've now got the lunar eclipse, and that's the energy of a shadow passing. So you've got to remove somehow that hedonism. I think that's the key energy that needs to be boiled away. You need to change the way you communicate when you're networking, and you don't need to get into bed with everybody. That's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about a kind of esoteric shadow gift. The gift is waking up to your shadows. That's your gift, and that's what brings you into the light and allows you to scald the emotional heat. It's all I feel like the emotions don't want to be part of you. It's like I'm being shown that image again of you running above the earth, but somehow you're skipping, and that's why you don't want to touch down to the earth. You're skipping on a river of uncomfortable emotions that somehow there's some kind of sense that you know that you allow your sexuality to be destructive in some way. And then we have conjunction. That's to merge. That's the direction that we're going in next. You need to merge your focus, your energies on making yourself better balanced. So what they're saying to me now is, it's like for you, because we always talk about the twins, it's like one twin is your darker side and one twin is your lighter side. Now that's a very easy thing, but you need to bring them into oneness. You need to merge them. You need to see that they're whole, that they're one concept. And it's almost that concept of, by saying House Gemini is twins, that's making it much more difficult for you to get past your shadows, because you're bouncing quickly between the two, and that's upsetting your whole auric field, which is why you get this connection to the throat. It's interesting that as I speak to you, that dry throat energy that I've had ever since I couldn't do your reading yesterday evening is beginning to pass. So, Quicksilver, draw yourself together and become liquid. That's this river that you're skipping across. So, I'll have another sip of water. So, the next part of your reading is about the hidden wisdom of that union. When you bring your two aspects together, your shadows and your light, your ego and yourself, you can then connect with the truth within you, which is enthusiasm. To be enthusiastic, you are enthusiastic, but your shadows stop you from making that enthusiasm something positive. And you're loyal. So that sense of trying to gather a network and pull everyone in is also a shadow aspect. And once you can understand how to network with full emotions and consciously listening to others and hearing them, you will get that sense of the loyalty. You'll understand the value of yourself and your relationship with others. And you're retentive. I don't just mean that in the sense of you retain information, you can retain friendships, but it's about being able to others to want to retain you as their friend. There's no point in having a large network of friends if none of them really enjoy being around you. That's part of this aspect. You're very aware, you have that mutability, you're versatile, and you're insightful because you've got air frequency. Knowledge comes in. You can take knowledge and you can sieve through it and work out how to bring changes. So let's look at your subconscious wisdom and how that affects you. Oh, that's a lot. South Node. So your subconscious wisdom is connected to your past incarnations, but also energies within your DNA. That energy at the beginning of the song lines, it's like a frequency that courses through your blood. So it's like, it's not an energy of saying you need to forgive yourself. You do, because the energies of your shadows you're intended to follow. You're meant to experience them because they bring change to you. But it's about somehow acknowledging where you come from in your own life, not just where you came from before, but where you've been coming from as you've built your life to make the changes. And now we have the card of Cancer, and this is a solution, and they're showing me you melting. So one part of you, your self, is the solution, the liquid, and your shadows have to be dissolved inside that liquid to merge you. And that's a kind of emotional osmosis. It has to draw itself together through a resistance that's there. Like there was a barrier that you couldn't bring together. You have to allow the molecules to pass each other and become something new that's singular. And you have solve. Resolve you. Resolve your shadows into your light. And then we have Moon in Virgo. You've got so much of the moon cards coming out. This is trusting the flow. This is, you have to trust your emotions. You have to trust that your emotions are welcome in the world. And you have to awaken those emotions and step properly through that river that's above the earth. And then you have arsenic. This is house 6. This is health. Your health, this energy that I had at the beginning of your voice frequency being outside your body, this is the transformation. What poisons you, you can build a resistance to so that the poison no longer hurts you. So it's about understanding that dosing on your shadows is strengthening. And you end with Mary the Jewess. This is to be, I want to say the most important thing about this is you're singular. You're not any longer these two twin energies that are having a row with each other all the time. This is about coming into yourself. And what's interesting is that the Mary the Jewess card is made, let's hold it that way. Here's South Node. The North Node, your destiny, is your truth. And there's something about it taking time to take all the molecules and turn them into a kind of starlight, a day candle, an energy within you that's worth resonating on. And then we're going to look at the gifts once you've found that singular Mary the Jewess energy, which is your gifts to others. So we have motivator. You will motivate people through your transformation. And then you become an educator because of all this wonderful knowledge that you have. You become inspiring. You'll also find the seer eye, that insightfulness that you have, that seer eye will open and let you understand concepts that previously you just couldn't get a handle on because you couldn't hear all the energies within them. And rejuvenating. You rejuvenate others. You bring a childlike awe, a youthfulness back to others. So, that's interesting that it's done in 2 halves. More moons. So, we've got Moon in Aries now, and this is impulsive. This is that energy really of motivation to step forwards and do something, and that being a frequency, a gift that you give to others, to inspire others to be more impulsive. You don't need to inspire Aries though, they've got a handle on that. But it is that energy of inspiring, of showing people how to just move into good energies, how to focus their lives, because you've got your seer energy. And then you've got Hygeia. And Hygeia is the biome, preventative medicine. And I am being told that's to do with your love of intoxicants. You've got to get a handle on that. That's part of this. You know, hedonism's fabulous. It teaches you something. But you can't be hedonistic all your life. You have to learn another way to enjoy yourself that brings more emotional pleasures rather than physical, because these physical pleasures, your hedonism is wrecking your biome. And then you've got the other card of Mercury, Quicksilver itself. This is your fluidity, your ability to be mutable. This is the modality that is linked to Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. That's your gift. Your gift is to show people that everything can flow. You can step through that river of Mercury, make contact with the ground, line up your consciousness, your molecules, your biome, and absolutely flourish. But it's about change. It's about fluidity. It's about mutability. And that's what you need to bring to people. That's your gift. To bring changes to others. But to do that, you have to bring change to yourself first. So, House Gemini, regardless of whether it's your sun in there or any other planets, this is the energies that those planets will be trying to deal with, depending on what planets you have in that house. So, Wassail Beautiful Geminis. Gemini, I didn't pick up the last card, so it was the completion. You had the lunar eclipse and you had the solar eclipse, and this is a galactic opportunity. So there's something about you needing to start looking at those shadows right now. And it's also about how you're a completion, because the lunar eclipse to the solar eclipse, for me, is often called the Janus Geminus, the Roman temple tunnel, in which during times of war and difficulty, they would open the doors at either end, and there's 12 columns, and you go inside and you make prophecy in the middle of the temple, and then you choose to engage with that energy. So it's just a reminder that it's when you choose to engage in your desired changes that you bring the change. Don't sit there, Gemini, thinking that the cosmos is going to bring something in. This is really an energy about you being in control of your own destiny. So, Wassail again.